What's up, guys? Renee Botello with Home Guide Real Estate, but also with Volt Property Management. Here's my partner, Volt.
What's up? I'm Carlos Almanza, also with Vault Property Management, and we're going to talk about El Paso real estate, and hopefully we get some good topics here that'll help you all out if you're considering buying, selling, or renting here in El Paso, the good old Sun City.
So we're going to go through, like Carlos said, if you're considering selling, what are the pros and cons in today's market? And we're in 2025 of November 2025. Pros and cons of selling. Let's start there. Let's do pros and cons of selling versus renting out your property, and then we'll dive into the other topics, right? And then we'll talk about locations in El Paso that are more, more in demand for selling versus buying, right?
Yep.
I'm sorry, selling versus renting out your property.
Got it.
Let's start off with that. If you're considering, well, I wonder if I should sell my home or rent it out, who do you think an ideal person is to rent out their property in today's market?
The ideal person to rent out is someone that can cash flow, ideally. So ideally, you've had your home for a while, and the rent covers the mortgage plus some. You get $200 to $300. Ideally. Now, there's people in the situation, like there's a lot of military. El Paso is a big military town.
Yep.
They bought their house 2-3 years ago. They got orders to PCS. They got to leave. They have to leave. They can't leave in there. And they don't want to deal with being a property manager or having a tenant. But sometimes they don't have the choice. The rent, or they can't sell it because they don't have enough equity. They bought their home with a VA loan. They have to rent. And so that would be another person there that, you can't really help it. You have to rent it out because you don't have enough money to sell the property.
So let me deep dive into that a little bit more. So what Carlos is saying is, if you have a property and let's say you bought it 5, 8, 10 years ago, chances are your mortgage, if you haven't refinanced recently, your mortgage is probably pretty low, what you pay per month, and the rent that you would get for your property would cash flow you, which means there'll be rent paid to you to cover your mortgage plus some on top, right? That's probably the ideal candidate to rent out their property. And most of the time here in El Paso, again, it's military.
Yep.
Right? You've been here for 5 years. You bought right before it hit COVID, and your interest rate was awesome, or during COVID, your interest rate's awesome.
Yep.
And your your mortgage payment's only $1,200, but you can get $1,600 for rent. You're probably an ideal candidate. It's probably a benefit for you.
Oh, for sure.
But I would even say, even if you bought your home a year or 2 years ago, you may have to rent it out, even if it's upside down.
Yep.
What does upside down mean?
So upside down means you don't have enough equity to sell the home because you got to pay out of pocket, or you don't have, the market doesn't support the rental amount that you need to be able to rent it out and get money. Sometimes you have to pay out of pocket there too.
So like if your mortgage is $2,000, right? Because that's in some areas in El Paso, that's a 1,500 square foot home.
Yep.
Your mortgage might be $2,000 or higher. Well, rental, the way we comp rentals out or we price rentals out is a lot different than sales price, right? So if you're paying $2,000 a month for your mortgage, but you're in an area and your house is 1,400 square feet, you're probably going to collect about $1,400-$1,500 for rent.
Yep.
In most areas in El Paso.
Yep.
So what that means is you're upside down. So you're paying more mortgage than you are going to be able to collect rents, but you may have to, because like Carlos said, you don't have enough equity in your property to be able to sell it, because on average it takes you about 9% to sell your home.
Yep.
So give me an example of that if you can break it down easily.
Sure. So let's do $200,000. So
Okay.
we're talking about $2,000 rent. You got to pay closing costs,
Right.
as a seller. So you got to pay the title company, do the title search. If you hire a real estate professional, is the biggest reason why people want to go for sell by owner. They don't want to pay real estate professionals. What's the typical amount we pay? Well, it's negotiable now, but you could expect to pay between 3 to 6% on that, or whatever you can negotiate. And then on top of that, El Paso's shifting to a buyer's market now.
Right.
Buyers are having more power. They're getting more spoiled now.
Yep.
They're asking for closing costs on top of asking to negotiate on the price, asking for repairs. So you got to expect to pay another 3% on top of everything we just discussed. So 9% is a fair estimate of what you'd have to pay from your proceeds to sell the home. And if you don't have enough equity to cover all of that, you're gonna have to shell out of pocket to pay.
So the one way you can find out what your home's worth or what you can do, and you should do this actually, if you're considering both options, you get a consultation by somebody that understands the rental market and as well as the seller's market, what you can collect on rent and what you can sell your home for. That way they can help you determine what's the best option. So they'll give you a fair market value, what you could sell for in today's market, and then they should give you what's called a net sheet, where it breaks down your assumed cost or what you probably would pay when you close on the house. And then if you're upside down and you're gonna have to pay $20,000 out of pocket to sell your house, then you probably want to rent it, even if your rent is not covering your mortgage. Because paying maybe $200 additional a month and somebody paying the rest of your mortgage because they're renting it, that's still a benefit. Why would it be a benefit?
All right. So it may not seem like a benefit now, but with every month that you're paying that mortgage payment, you're building equity. And then every year you're getting appreciation on your home, which is what, 5 to 8% in El Paso.
Typically about 5 to 8% in El Paso.
Yep. So over the longer term, you'll be fine. Eventually, the people that could rent their houses right now, the best are the people that bought 10 years ago, because rental market rates go up every year,
right?
But your mortgage rate stays fixed unless you got an ARM. We could talk about ARMs later,
right?
But your mortgage payment stays fixed. So as time goes on, you could be able to rent out your property for more. You can be making more rental money. You're going to have more equity and, factor in appreciation.
Right. And so we real estate, we throw around the word equity a lot. And so basically what equity is what your home can sell for in today's market versus what your actual mortgage is. So if you have positive equity, that means your mortgage loan balance right now is, let's say, $100,000. But you could sell it for $200,000 with what's called a comparative market analysis, a fair market value. And you could sell for $200,000, you have $100,000 of equity. So it's that in-between number, right?
Right.
But what you're saying is if you bought your home 10 years ago, chances are, high chances, you bought your home, let's say, for $150, and regardless of what the rate was back then, you bought your home for $150, there's a really good chance that your mortgage payment's a lot lower than what you can get for rents in today's market, right? Yeah. But let's say that you bought your home a year ago, 2 years ago, what we just talked about right now is it still might be a good scenario for you because you're still going to appreciate on equity. So an appreciation annually is this. If your home is worth $100,000 in today's market, a year from now, the idea is it's probably worth $105,000. Now the number may not sound huge, but the average price point in El Paso is about $265,000 right now. So 5% of that's higher than the $5,000 of $100,000, right?
Right.
It's above $10,000. So I can't do the math right now because math is not mathing, but chances are you have a pretty good appreciation on equity, right?
Yeah.
So if we're going to talk about renting your home out versus selling it, those are things you want to consider. But also, what about location?
Yeah, location makes a big deal. If
what's a hot location in El Paso? I hate using that word, but it's funny.
Hot.
What's a hot location?
West Side for sure. West Side. Is...
What about for renting your home out though? Is that a hot location?
Yeah. Well, if you live in the Northeast, if you live in the Far East, those are very strong markets, rental markets, because that's where a lot of Fort Bliss soldiers live. It's one of the closest locations to post. So a lot of soldiers like to live in those areas. The central location, what zip code is that? 70930, 70903.
Right.
Those areas are even closer, but those houses are also a lot older. Soldiers don't really want to deal with those maintenance issues.
Right.
So they stay away from that area. Northeast and East Side is the hotspots generally for military.
And I would even say mainly Northeast and East Side too, because in central area, your house is a little bit old. The houses are going to be older for sure. There's not brand new homes. The homes were built a while back then, and you might have a lot of maintenance issues, or you have to repair things or replace things. And as the homeowner renting out your property, that's something that you're responsible for. It's not the renter, it's you, right? You have to maintenance your home and upkeep it. Mm-hmm. But here's the other thing that would not be great if you're trying to rent out here in El Paso, because a majority of our renters are military, right? That are stationed here. I-10 traffic sucks. And for you to get from Central anywhere, you probably have to go through I-10 for the most part. And man, that sucks. People like Northeast and East Side to rent homes because Loop 375 tends to not have as much traffic or much backup. And so it's a way faster and easier commute to Fort Bliss. It's about 15 minutes, 20 minutes probably.
Tops.
Right?
Tops.
Now there's traffic there sometimes, but it's around 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy.
The traffic there, but you can't get away from it. It's literally getting onto post.
Right.
And I mean, anyone that's been anywhere on Fort Bliss or, any major military installation, you can't get away from that. Everybody shows up for PT. Everybody leaves at 4:35, but at least you're not dealing with the civilian traffic at the same time.
Yep.
It's just the fellow soldiers.
So to kind of recap this topic, and then we'll move on to renting a home versus you buying a home, right? What the pros and cons are. Pros and cons, again, for selling your home. If you've owned it for 5+ years, chances are you have equity. You'll probably make money if you sell your property, right? Even after paying costs associated. Now, the resale market here in El Paso is taking a little bit slower than the new construction, because new construction is offering a bunch of incentives. So if you are going to sell your property in El Paso and it's a resale, chances are it might be in the market a little bit longer than it was back 3 years ago during COVID.
Yep.
But it's not impossible to sell, because there's pros to selling a resale: landscaping, upgrades, pools, and things of that nature, right?
Yep.
You also get more space for your square footage.
Oh, for sure.
More square footage for your money, right? So if you're thinking of selling, you should check your equity position and make sure that you're going to be in the red, like in the green, where you're going to make money, versus having to fork out money or covering the additional rents if you don't have, if your mortgage is more than what you collect for rent.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
So let's talk about if you're in El Paso and you're considering, should I rent right now because I don't know about rates? Let's start there. Let's start with rates. Rates is always a topic. It's going to be forever be a topic. I get it. But here's the thing. Your interest rate on renting a property, here's a cheesy one, is 100% interest. You're not collecting any money from it. You're paying somebody else's mortgage, or you're stacking their bank account.
Yep.
And to rent in El Paso, at least through a property manager, which most people rent through a property manager, you have to go through a strict qualification process also.
Yep.
Credit score check. They check your background history. They also check your income and verify employment.
Yep.
And they also check your rental history. So if you qualify to rent, you probably qualify to buy a home in El Paso.
Yep.
Most likely. You may not, but probably you do, right? Yep. So who is an ideal renter in El Paso?
Ideal renter is probably someone that's here very, very short term, or very, short amount of time. Traveling nurses here for a few months. If you're a soldier, a lot of soldiers like to hunt. They like the green, they like the water. El Paso's not like that.
No, we have a bunch of dirt.
Yep. Dirt. Mm-hmm. The closest lake here is 2 hours north. You can probably hunt ibex or whatever at Fort Bliss, but if you like to hunt, and then the forest, that's not like that. I find that military, they love it or hate it here. If you're probably gonna come and you like that, the green, the forest, you probably won't like it here.
So in other words, you're not gonna stay here after the military's done, right?
Correct.
You're gonna leave.
You're gonna leave.
And so in that case, you probably want to rent here because you have no intent to sell, and you're here for a short period of time.
Yep.
But if you plan on staying here for several years because you like El Paso, then you probably want to buy.
Yes.
You probably want to buy because, again, you're going to appreciate equity throughout the years. Because rule of thumb here, at least in El Paso, is you probably need to live in a home for at least 5 years before you have enough equity to sell your home and make a profit.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Yeah.
And so if you're renting short term, most likely military, or you're just not going to stay in El Paso because you're here for like a very temporary time, right? Mm-hmm. And you hate it and you want nothing to do with this dirt, right?
Correct. Or if you want to buy, because I've had soldiers that have bought, they've assumed the VA loan that the previous person had, but I've seen them, they've come in with monstrous down payments, which is not typical here. The majority of buyers in El Paso do not have a big down payment. The majority of soldiers using their VA loan are doing it because they don't want to pay a down payment. Right. And those are the ones that have trouble in 2 to 3 years selling it because they literally have no equity. In fact, they might even have negative equity because of the VA funding fee. If you buy a home at $100,000, the VA adds a 3% on top of that. Well, 1.5% if it's your first home. If it's your second home, multiple home, it's 3%. So you're coming in already underwater and you just bought the house. Yep. So keep that in mind. Monstrous down payment, or you might be better off renting if you're going to be here for a short-term amount of time.
Now, if you're an investor and you're looking to purchase properties to rent, that's another category I'd like to explore. Yep. And then we'll dive into what the benefits are of buying a home today. Even if you're not an investor, if you're an investor, here's something really cool for investors. Because resales are sitting a little bit longer, some people might be more desperate to lower their price, and you might strike a deal, and that deal you might strike might be in the interest of you because you're buying at such a price where your mortgage is going to be lower than how much you can collect on rent. And as an investor, that's what you want to look for. You want to look at how much can I buy this property for? What's my mortgage payment going to look like with my financing, right? And how much can I get for rents? So before you consider as an investor to rent out, make sure you get with a trusted real estate professional, maybe one of us, so that we can guide you on what your rental potential could look like, right?
Correct.
Now let's say that you're just a normal person, not military, you're not an investor, you're looking for a property that you want to live in, right? And you're thinking, should I rent, should I buy? You should go talk to a mortgage lender just to see if you qualify and look at those numbers. Because again, chances are, if you can rent and you qualify to rent through a property manager, you could probably qualify to buy, and you get to stack your equity and make money off the property, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Right? And so if you're looking to buy a home to live in, or you're looking to live in a home, not an apartment, not your parents' house, not a family member's house, then chances are, like, don't wait to buy. Think of affordability versus interest rate, right? Here's what I mean by that. Affordability, what can you do monthly as far as a mortgage payments? We can't change the rates unless you buy down the rates.
Yep.
But that's the benefit of buying in today's market, is a lot of new construction. This is why they're selling at a faster rate.
Yep.
A lot of new construction is offering, hey, we're going to pay your closing costs, home buyer. We're also going to pay additional money so that we can help you buy down your rate permanently.
Yep.
Right? And that comes out of the new construction, new home builders' pockets. That comes out of their proceeds. So new construction's automatically spoiling buyers in today's market. What happens if rates drop a point? Tell me if you agree with this. If rates drop down a whole point, right? Like a whole percent, what we might experience, I highly believe this, is we'll see a frenzy in the market again.
We will.
Maybe not exactly like COVID, but something, even if half of COVID comes, here's what's gonna happen. Home prices are gonna shoot up.
Again.
So that's not an advantage for a buyer. It's an advantage for a seller, which would be good for you. But for home buyers, your home prices will shoot up. They're going to give you less incentives because now there's a bigger demand to buy property. So when the demand goes up, you're not spoiled the same way as a buyer. Inventory is going to start going short again at some point, right? And you might have to pay over asking price. You may not get all those incentives you get in today's market. You might have to sell a kidney in order to actually get on contract with a property, right? A kidney thing's a joke, by the way, if you didn't get that. But you're going to be in a more competitive buyer's market, which means less incentives, multiple offers, and you're not going to be spoiled like you would in today's market. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Right?
That's fair.
So out of all the things we're saying today, guys, is check your pros and cons, right?
Yep.
If I want to sell my home versus rent, get with somebody, give you a proper consultation. Do I want to buy or do I want to rent out a home, right? Do I want to rent a home? Check your pros and cons. What else would you have to add, bro? What do you think the final message would be here?
I mean, look at your goals, your individual goals with your family and what you want to do. Going back to the interest rate story, I have a client. They wanted to buy a home. They went under contract with a new builder.
Yep. With
new construction, it takes about 6 to 8 months, generally speaking, to build a new home. At the time they went under contract, rates were about 3%, still towards the tail end of the COVID market.
Right.
By the time the house was advanced enough for them to lock the rate, it was up at almost a 5%.
Yep.
They didn't like that. They wanted to wait till rates dropped again. And here we are, rates are 7%. They've dropped a little bit. Now they're what, 6.5?
They got up to
fives?
They got up to like the mid sevens.
Mid sevens,
right?
Yeah. So they've been waiting this whole time. They still haven't bought their home.
But we're in the high sixes now.
Yeah, we're in the high sixes.
Which is a drop.
Well, yeah, it's dropped, but it's not. They're not. It's not where they want. They were wanted at 3.5 again. But in the meantime, it's 2 to 3 years since that happened. They've lost out on the potential equity that they could have built since then. They've lost on the potential appreciation. The house prices have gone up.
Appreciation, dude.
Yep.
That's the key.
Yep. So number one, trust your lender. Make sure, because they're not going to put you in a home that you can't afford.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much.
There's a big
protections
screening
now.
process that they have to know that you can afford the property.
For sure.
Unless you lose your job or some major life event happens, and that's a different story.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for sure, I mean, you might not get your mansion,
right?
You know what I'm saying? But you're going to be in a home that you could afford. They would have screened you already.
Well, and that leads to property hacking.
Yep.
If you're in a place where like future you knows you're gonna make more money at some point because you're early in your career, whatever. Yep. Well, buy what you can afford now, because like Carl said, you can appreciate in the next 5 years. Let's say you stack appreciation of $70,000 in your property, right? Which is not uncommon. $70,000. Well, now when you sell this first starter home, you could take that $70,000, apply as a down payment. House hack that to your next home that you really want, right? Maybe your mansion or whatever, right? So 100%, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, get whatever real estate you're looking to do, make sure you get with somebody that explains these things to you and gives you a real playbook specifically for your scenario.
Yep.
Because you don't want to go in the blind and something happen a year, 2 years from now where you have to sell and then you're in a bind and you're stuck in this bad situation and you lose a lot of money. So get with a trusted advisor, right? So where can they reach you, Carlos?
They could reach me. Just look at my website, vaultprotectsyou.com. You can find me on Google. If you have questions about property management, reach out to me. Phone number is 915-292-2025, or just check out our Instagram, Vault Property Management.
Yep.
Where can they find you for if they want to buy or sell?
Same thing, my Vault Property Management, my partner in that company. If you're looking to buy or sell, my number is 915-356-0618. But again, get your consultation first. Don't jump all the way into the water initially. Like, really check the scenario for yourself and see what's best for you and your family. So hopefully this helps. Hopefully this sheds some light to somebody and it gives you like real information about real estate today, not the fluff, not the date the rate and marry the home, like all that. No, that's kind of like nonsense. Like,
it is.
Check the information.
Yep.
Make sure you find out what's best for you, and a real professional real estate professional agent, I said professional 10 times, a real professional real estate will give you your options. That's what you should look for.
Yes.
Cool.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, guys, if you're watching this, thanks for watching. Hopefully it gave you guys some insight. And if you have any questions, reach out to one of us.
Reach out. Let us know what you think in the comments. If you want to debate us or have an opinion of what we said. Good, yeah. Comment on there and let us know what you think. And we'll catch you all next month.
All right. Peace out, guys.